welcome to our podcast where we will merge art, science and ocean. This is by Bruce speaking, and in today's episode we will talk with 6 enthusiastic people who share the passion towards our ocean and seas. And so today our guests are David White, Ed Sheldon, Solly Levy, Neto Vettorello, John Armstrong and Jesse Patterson. I would like to start with a quote from Rachel Carson, whose work inspires me, and in a blog by Maria Popova, Rachel's speech has been noted down in the following way. When we go down to the lowest of the low tide lines and look down into the shallow waters, there is all the excitement of discovering a new world. Once you have entered such a world, its fascination grows and somehow you find your mind has gained a new dimension, a new perspective, and always thereafter you find yourself remembering the beauty and strangeness and wonder of that world, a world that is as real, as much a part of the universe as our own. And from here, let me go to our first speaker, Solly Levy. And could you please introduce yourself and tell us about your experience in merging art and science? And if I remember correctly, your work also involved local coastal communities in co-producing a poem?
Yes, hello, Baiba. Thank you so much for having me. So just a little bit about me. I suppose I'd call myself an interdisciplinary marine scientist. My passion is working alongside coastal communities and finding out all the different ways in which they connect and relate and care for the ocean. And I just finished my PhD, and I was working with the lovely people at the Bantry Bay Kelp Campaign, figuring out what motivated them to take action and protect the kelp forests, and how the campaign changed their relationship with the ocean for the better. And I interviewed some of the people from the campaign, and as part of my data analysis, I took excerpts from their interviews and put them into poems, because a lot of people were speaking a lot around the same themes. So I kind of took quotes from different interviews and constructed collective voice poems out of what people were telling me about the campaign, about their relationship to seaweed. And after that, the poems were kind of sitting there and I didn't know what to do with them. And I got put into touch with a community music group in Skibbereen, and I worked with them. Then we took the poems, and the group themselves interpreted the poems in a musical way, and it was just amazing to see how they made other people's emotions and poetry their own. And we worked together over a couple improv sessions to create a musical performance that was kind of about trying to bring seaweed into the room and getting people to listen to communities and seaweed. And it was just an amazing, sort of organic process. I never planned to do a seaweed musical performance. It just kind of happened by meeting one person who then put me in touch with another one, and it kind of snowballed. And it's never a lone effort. There's so many people involved, and I've made so many, new relationships along the way. So I would say, the main point is connection and relation, and that's, the core of art and science, I think, for me.
Thank you, Solly, and it's great you also mentioned about involving a lot of people, and so that really touched on this community engagement element. So thanks for that, and I think we will turn to you afterwards. I'm very curious to hear more about the poem building as well. So thanks for sharing that, Solly.
Perfect, thank you.
So now I will turn to one of the members from Nature Network Ireland, and maybe please hear from you, John, how nature restoration, for example, is linked with local communities. And if you would like to share examples, where has that taken place from your experience at Nature Network Ireland?
Hello, how are things? So I think one of the main places that we've seen nature restoration would most definitely be in Beaumont Quarry. So Beaumont Quarry, it's an area of Cork City that is very close, it's near to Black Rock. We call it an oasis in the middle of the city, because it's a disused quarry that's been completely let go back to nature. And so you can stand on top of it and look straight down and see mature trees underneath you. It's really a beautiful and amazing place. And so we actually manage this area, and then we work with the county council. County council owns it, and then we kind of manage it for them. And so we're doing a lot of work inside there trying to like figure out how to use it properly. Like we brought in goats, trying to see if we can remove invasive species that way rather than using any pesticides, things like that. It's an incredible place. So most of the stone that's actually used for many of the buildings here in Cork City actually came from that old quarry. And so we're every year trying to bring more and more people into this area because it's in our cities, especially kind of a city like Cork. We have so many green spaces, but so many people do not use them. And we find that our green and our blue spaces are very, very underused, underutilized, things like this. And there's a lot of places that you want to keep wild, and there's always this tug and tension between keeping an area wild and bringing in people into it. Because the more people that come into an area, the less wild it becomes. But if people don't know about it, it's just going to be used for construction, or people are going to build on top of it, or things like that. So I think there's always going to be this kind of idea of how do we bring people into the wilderness or into these wild areas in kind of the best way we can. So, yeah.
Thanks for sharing, and I loved your note about letting people know, and I think this is where actually I would like to further build on the story from Ed here, because I resonate very much of engagement myself as well as being a citizen scientist, and here we are. I'm super lucky and happy that you Ed are here with us, and could you share a bit from your way of looking as being part of restoration yourself? How that experience resonates and what that brings being involved, and maybe also how would you encourage others to join restoration activities?
Sure. We're really lucky to live on the ocean in Phoenix. Tralee Bay is an amazing place. There's a prospect of the Hope Spot being a protected area, which is just going to be fantastic for Carrie. Our wildlife under the water is astonishing. So basically, I guess what happened is it was a total accident that I got involved in, sticking my head underwater and observing things, the marine wildlife. I couldn't tell a plant from an animal, and in between there's all sorts of amazing things that you'll find in your kelp beds that you wonder, how can an animal swim to the place that it's going to establish itself for life? We did a couple of projects which I think were really important to the local community. And the first one was we did a study for the national parks studying seagrass beds. And that came about because we lost a sand dune. It was breached, and the breach is something we thought about, bringing in big machines to repair. But the guys from Galway, Kevin Lynch in particular, suggested that there's nature-based approaches that are very appropriate for restoration of sand dunes ashore. And Karen Dubsky from Coast Watch, she was really informative about, the fact that there's, a bigger picture involved with restoration something ashore. And one of the things that could protect and reduce the wave intensity against the sand dune is seagrasses. So we got involved in just finding out that we had seagrasses on both sides of our dune. We started mapping them. We started finding out that it was incredibly important for the habitats in our area. We found that kelp habitats were typically just beyond the seagrass habitats. And the more we got our heads underwater, the more we saw just the most amazing marine life you could imagine. You wouldn't think that worms could be beautiful, but the fan worms, especially the twin fan worms, they just have these glorious displays when they're trying to filter feed. And absolutely, I think one of my favorite projects was funded by the National Aquarium up in Galway. And each of our 4 coastal communities had volunteers that looked at a 5 by 5 centimeter square every month and took pictures and tried to figure out what was in this little tiny area. And we came up with 68 different species. And again, the learning curve, the use of iNaturalist, the ability to share information, to take great pictures. We're still using those photographs. I'm not sure they're as impressive as your artwork that you put up today, but certainly, what our biodiversity officer does in Carey County Council is to take our stuff, put the best pictures up, display it for the general public to come and use it. And we try our best to to engage with the community, to show them what we've learned, to encourage them to get under the water and to see the whole amazing world that's there. Efforts like yours, where you take a piece of seaweed and you press it, and it's beautiful, artistic. Sometimes you've added poetry to it. Your cozy side is really impressive. I think a lot of what we do to share our observations is through iNaturalist and through the National Biodiversity Data Center's database. So to get involved is really easy. Find Coast Watch, do their yearly annual litter study and survey. Get involved with just reporting seagrass through Coast Watch. If you're just walking the beaches, you can easily see seagrass that's being washed up. Groups like Sea Search Ireland, they actually get their divers into the water. They establish the exact locations and extent of the seagrass beds. And then internationally, we started working with the Smithsonian Marine Global Earth Observatory program, where we measure density and coverage. And that data that we provide is used globally for looking at things like, in the face of climate change, is it possible to keep seagrass from being totally lost when temperature change is happening too fast? And this is in particular in the northeast corner of the U.S. Unlikely to happen here based on current estimates, but for a little citizen science group to start interacting with this wide variety of supporting groups, Grace in the Irish Wildlife Trust, folks like Alec McMaster with the Shifting Tides program, where he's doing really cool mapping, and it's a cross-border initiative. You can get involved in activities like that. Clean Coast has lots of opportunities for volunteers. Start your own group locally, and I think it'll go a long ways. Yeah.
Thank you, Ed, a lot, and there's lots to explore, and I definitely agree. Fernworms are beautiful creatures, so we have had the luck at University College Cork, one of the offices at Gobi Beach, where we actually have noticed these creatures, so fantastic. It all sounded very brilliant, and this brings me to a word of lab. And here's Jesse from Radical Humanities Lab. Could you bring us a bit in what is that? Because could you brief what and how people can also get involved if they can, and your own experience in science and art, if you could elaborate.
Sure. Yeah, the lab is part of a broader initiative. And investment from all the way up from the strategic policies of the university, and so it's a much bigger and broader effort to bring it together. I'm just a small part of it, but the lab itself is a collection of researchers working at the forefront of fundamental environmental, social, and cultural challenges. The historical meaning of the word radical is root. And that's primarily what this group of scholars is interested in. And we're across all 4 colleges. We're involved in legal studies, medical, social studies. And I particularly work on, myself specifically, I work on environmental change, environmental degradation, pollution, biodiversity loss in my own research. And I think to go to the question about what is meaningful about art and science, I think we tend to think of them as kind of separate practices, but it's important to realize that they both contribute to how we relate to the environment, for instance, how we relate to the oceans, specifically in the context of this conversation. Each provides a particular perspective and also offers opportunities for thinking through evidence-based information, whether that's experiential or observation or other kinds of specific research practices. So arts is not necessarily kind of only about subjective interpretation, and we see this in lots of different kinds of art movements. I probably should give an example here, but I'm blanking, so I'm sorry about that. But in many cases, science and art are very, very much very similar activities. in which different people come together and produce really important information. And so I think the main thing that I am kind of curious about personally is how to bring these two kinds of practices together. And it can be really, I think, beneficial for scientists to engage in artistic practices themselves. It helps reveal a lot of ways of relating to the research subject that they wouldn't have realized or thought of beforehand. And it's also very productive for artists themselves to engage in a lot of like very important social, political, ethical, environmental, challenges. And most of them, I think, do. So I guess I'm just saying both science and art are very fundamental means of accessing information, and that we should take advantage of.
Super, thanks, Jess. And actually, you kept me inspiring that what we do here is we just need to enlarge and scale it up, and that's actually brought me towards the idea to put David here and also think more about other projects on this exact topic, and I think that's tidal arts. And David, would you like to share a bit more on this and how arts and science mix is actually happening in some of the projects you are involved?
Yeah, no problem. So I suppose tidal arts is about celebrating the connections that people have with their oceans and waters and the knowledge that they have around that. And where those connections don't exist, it's about bringing the ocean and bringing waters to people and getting them to get to know those spaces through arts and science collaborations. And I suppose it's also about having people develop relationships or kind of think through the relationships that they have with other communities across sea basins and across river basins because they're connected through that basin. Like if we think we're here in the North Atlantic is almost like a character in our lives. It's cold, it's highly energized. It's generally got massive tidal ranges, and that makes communities in the North Atlantic similar in a certain way, or gives them a similar experience in a way that Mediterranean communities share that character in their lives. It's warmer, it's much more peaceful. It's got challenges such as overfishing, and tourism is a big importance to that region. It's also a challenge, and so these water spaces kind of act as it puts quality into our lives, and that's something that we share with the bigger regions that we live in. So tidal arts is kind of all about working with these relationships and working with these knowledges through arts and science collaborations, and just seeing where they bring us, and hopefully bringing us to a more positive place in terms of ocean health and relationships with each other than we are now.
Super. Now, I liked how you phrased it about relationships with each other. I think that's also proven. We are 7 people here, and sharing the same passion and bringing it further to others. Also, you mentioned Mediterranean Sea, so also there's one other project which is part art for oceans and waters, which also maybe for the listeners of interest to check their work out. And there is particular thing why we're here, and I'm very grateful to turn to Neto Vettorello, who is actually a street artist of a very distinct style with a very specific character involved. And we are here celebrating the opening of one of your murals, which has been made in collaboration with the BlueMissionAA team. And Neto, we discussed a lot about arts and engagement of people in nature restoration, in marine environment. But I was also thinking if you could tell us a bit more, and you also shared a bit before that indigenous knowledge and nature is something very special in your artworks. Could you tell us a bit on this?
Yeah, hello, my name is Neto Vettorello. So I'm street artist and multidisciplinary artist, and as well do everything. Yeah, but to say I'm on street to share with my art of the people I believe just I filter to something bigger than planet Earth, kind of cosmos. So and because I believe so much of the energies, because everything we do in this is kind of the sharing of the energy. Could be in the voice or the vision, anything, just it's kind of the energy it was around us. So yeah, my especially connection between the Brazilian indigenous, because I am from Brazil, I'm born there, and also the indigenous, it was a teacher of the people, because the knowledge of the indigenous, it was a kind of the be a part of the forest, be a part of the nature. So we are learning with the what the nature provide us. We needed to care us because it was home. Just we needed just to care about that, you know, and also this kind of the learning impact of my work. Just when I acting to the cities, I try to bring some stuff, you know, and also I put my mark on the cities, because my mark, it for myself, it's kind of the protector. It's kind of the protective the soul of the peoples, because it is the same of the other cultures, indigenous cultures, and all the different parts of the world. It's the same. It's the guys do something to kind of to preserve the tribe, you know, just to sign kind of the protect of the souls, or just the some kind of the evils. So, and when I do this, I bring this kind of the stuff to the reality that we live in this society. And also my character, it was famous as me because the people say a lot of these places and around the globe. This person, this character, it's called the Tani É. Tani É, it's a word in Yoruba language, provenient from Nigeria. It's the Tani É, translated to English, it means who are you? So it's important to think who are you on this planet? What are you doing here? So if you don't think it's that, just we don't have just to, kind of to think the future, you know, because if you don't know what you're doing here, if you don't know who are our person or human being, what did you change something, you know, just we start to think this stuff. And also the people asking, but why the Yoruba language? And so the Yoruba language, it's so important because the history of Brazil is a bit hard, and also so sad as well, because when the people just invaded Brazil, the people have a lot of the tribes, a lot of the people living on this earth, on the part of the Brazil. And also the guys destroyed the forest, destroyed the cultures, destroyed people, doing the worst stuff as human being could be in the planet, you know. It's a little bit hard. And also to destroy the forest and the environment and the indigenous Brazilians, the guys, they have the worst part in history, it was the slavery. So the Brazil, it was the last country to stop the slavery in the world. So a lot of the Africans, it was transporting to Brazil to do the worst works in the planet. It was, and also into the sad history, but the Africans bring us the light just to create the culture, to create the molding, the formation of Brazil. And also I have a lot of the connections, and also, and it was say in Brazil, this is Mama Africa, it's kind of the motherland. And also we are, I believe so much, because we are son of the motherland. Because when you can see the history of the human, you can see just a lot of stuff happens on the Africa and after starting other parts of the world. And also to put some name in Yoruba, because it's a lot of the people from the Africa, when living in Brazil, the guys needed to hide into the white people to celebrate your religions. And also these kind of the religious mold, they are creating often new religions in Brazil and mixing some Catholic stuff, Catholic saints, and also the guys using like the saint similar to the Africans, the African religions, and changes to the white. Just no, this is kind of the same thing. And also to create some kind of the new religion. It's called the Umbanda. So Umbanda, it was so important for myself because changed completely my mind to think beyond through the physical world, and start to be the energy for to think the soul in something bigger than just the planet Earth. Just we are part of the cosmos. Just this cosmos bigger than just a small dot of on the blue dot on this space. And also, in these kind of connections, put just as the Africans and the Brazilian indigenous in part of my job. And also, it's nice to think, and also my connection with the oceans, it started after just when traveling to northeast of Brazil. And I remember just I put my snorkel face at the same time and put my head when under the water, and looks like the word came from myself. And a lot of the colors, a lot of the stuff. So this time I changed completely my mind. Just this time I think just as the ocean if the other visions. And also I start to when I'm back to my hometown, the first time I looking for some dive school. So, and also I changed I started to do this school, the dive school, and be a former scuba diver nowadays. And also, that's my first change key. It was in the ocean, and my first change key. It was I had my first experience with the ayahuasca, and also because the character it's a connection this stuff as well. Because the ayahuasca, it was a kind of the medicine for the forest, for Amazon forest. So the indigenous, Brazilian indigenous, and Peruvians, Bolivians, outside a part of the Amazon, drink this tea just to open the vision, this connection with the cosmos and the spiritual world. And also when I had my first experience in the ayahuasca, the second way when he full of colors, just this changed completely my mind. The first it was in the ocean because it's beautiful, a lot of the colors, but the ayahuasca it's bigger than the oceans. And also everything was connected. And also we are here today to share the energy, to talk for something super important. It was our home, the ocean and planet.
Super, thanks Neto. And I also saw the face of Ed smiling and all of us here. But you actually reminded us how ocean is connected. It's one big ocean, and I think your artwork really relieves that message, how connected we are and how we share this one space.
Yeah, it's crazy to think because it was planet Earth, but just the most part of the planet is water. And also we are 70% water, our body. Just it's nice when have some kind of the water on the floor, you can see perfectly the energy sharing through the water. And also if you don't think just we are energy, just is what we're thinking, just is on the vision, on the physics stuff, but the water is perfectly to see how the energy flow, and also just water are connected with the water, or the planet or our body.
And we see through water, as Valeria, our project manager, always reminds us that our lenses are built from water. So it's beautifully said. Thank you, Neto.
No problem.
I'm also looking at all of you. If there is any question you would like to interact with, I'm just looking. Is there a question, Ed, you would like to pose?
Oh, gosh, no, but I can certainly relate to what you're saying about putting your head underwater. And
Yeah.
I think the experience a lot of us found was we also started not seeing only the big cosmos, but
and also just we needed to start to think bigger than this stuff, because as I said before, just we only small thing on the space, just it's cosmos is biggest, it's vast, it's a huge one,
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I love where this sort of talk has led us, that we are all connected and it's bigger than us ourselves. And I think I'm very grateful we managed to come here all together. There is one particular thing we started, Solly, at the very beginning, and you said the community poem. And we did talk about that, and also Neto touched on the indigenous communities and how important that is for his work. Would you like to share the poem you recreated with the talks with the communities of the local people?
Yes, I would love to. Just opening it up. So I suppose before I share the poem, I wanted to give a bit of context as well. So this is one of the poems that we performed along with this community music group in the Skibbereen Arts Festival last year. And it was part of 5 different pieces that kind of explored people's relationships with seaweed. And before I say the poem, I wanted to share also this quote from the artist that I collaborated with, the musician, whose name is Kevin McNally, and he's actually a music professor at UCC. And working with him was so wonderful, and I just distinctly remember when we kind of welcomed the audience to the performance, what he said was, as artists, it's our business to get people to care. And I think that's just encapsulates it so powerfully, and it's like Neto was saying, the central question is getting people to think, who are we, what are we doing here? And like you were saying, there's so much difficult history around the ocean, so I think to think about where are we going, we have to think about where have we been. So yes, that's kind of the context around that. And then, yeah, just as a reminder, this poem is not something that I wrote, it's all quotes from people that I spoke with that were telling me how they felt swimming inside kelp forests, and all I did was kind of put people's words together to create this collective feeling of what that experience is like. So last time I did it with music, but this time I suppose it's just my voice. So here I go. If you go swimming, you actually get those little flowers. You get the thongweed. As you're going along, you would notice all the different plants. When you snorkel with the kelp, it's on your skin. You're wrapped around it. You know that it spirals. You get this energy spiral. You get this feeling of the pulse. You get the pulse of the wave. When you're swimming in kelp, you can go quite into the dark in it. It can really envelop you. You're really in it. It then wants to know you, come all around you, suffocate you. Your legs touch the seaweed. You generally be, well, not afraid of it, but like you, this thing that drags you down, something that might catch your legs, drown you. The kelp plays with you. It's touching you intimately. So that's the beautiful poem from people's words. And I guess one of the main things that comes out of that is also the agency of the kelp, that people see it not as just this passive thing, but something that interacts with you actively. And it's something that's deeply intimate, very, very embodied. And I guess that's what you get when you have the experience of being able to actually access that physically underwater. And I also think it's important to note, because like everybody around this table, we've all had these sort of life-changing experiences underwater, and that's such a privilege. But I guess there's such a focus on like this physical embodied engagement that it's also important to note that there's so many people around the world that don't have that privilege, whether it's due to like structural barriers like economic disadvantage or racial barriers, or gender. Like there's so many people who aren't able to have that physical engagement. So I think that's where art can also come in, of bringing people, or bringing the ocean home to people in different ways that they can also access. I think, accessibility is a very important part of this conversation. So thank you.
Thank you. I was carried away, to be honest with you, and could have listened more and more. And again, in your poem as well, there was this shared energy, and I would like to thank all the speakers for coming and mention to our listeners that our guests were today David White, Ed Sheldon, Solly Levy, Neto Vettorello, John Armstrong, Jess Pedersen, and we are recording this episode during the event Waves of Change, a community mural for ocean restoration, which is part of Cork Harbour Festival here in Ireland. With the support of University College Cork, Tidal Arts team and the BlueMissionAA project, we are here to celebrate the work of Neto Vettorello with the title Into the Reefs. This work was commissioned by BlueMissionAA and dedicated to our ocean. To add, BlueMissionAA is a project funded by the European Union and serves as a coordinator hub supporting the mission implementation in the Atlantic and Arctic Basin, with focus on preserving and restoring marine coastal ecosystems and biodiversity. Your moderator today, Bob Bruce and BlueMissionAA team, says thanks for joining our episode and see you at the coast. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.